course, emptying the notebook ahead of training camp. Yes, football is around the corner, and it is time now for a segment. Oh, what is this music?
It's a great jam. I love the music in this segment.
Control,
That's part of the segment.
Compete. That's it. We're going to discuss teams and what they need to do to sort of hit reboot for the 2021 season, which is almost here. Thank goodness.
Right.
Today we're starting coverage of the AFC East. We've gone team by team. We've hit pretty much all 32, but we've got to get to this division. And we will begin right here in New York with the New York Jets. Let's take a look at the offseason so far. Robert Saleh, of course, a huge addition here. His first season as a Jets head coach, as a head coach ever. Plus, Sam Darnold is out. Zach Wilson taken number 2 overall. He, of course, their quarterback to start the season. Now, Adam Rank has this thing going on over at NFL.com called State of the Franchise, and he asks one quick question, one simple guy. In order to compete in 2021, the Jets need to do what?
All right, they need to pay off the fable. There is a legendary, almost Paul Bunyan-esque story around the Jets fan base and the Jets organization that for one day, nay, for one half, in 2019, C.J. Mosley was the best football player in the world, maybe the best to ever live. If you don't remember this, C.J. Mosley signs this massive free agent deal to be the Jets' star defensive player. Week 1 against the Bills, he was Mike Singletary, Lawrence Taylor, you name it. He was the best player we've ever seen in our life. Pick 6, 50 tackles. It was like the greatest free agent signing in history. Move over Reggie White. Then he gets hurt, and then we haven't seen him since. He opted out last season. He had a brief appearance later in this season, and we have seen one half of football out of C.J. Mosley, this incredible middle linebacker who was with Baltimore and came over and was supposed to be the defensive dude. And now Robert Saleh is there, who is the ultimate defensive dude. And I look at C.J. Mosley, I'm like, not only do we need you, we need on this team a Josh Allen stopper. Like, we need someone who's going to stand up and smoke that dude when he breaks the huddle. It's got to be C.J. Mosley. One half was glorious, but it's got to be a lot more. They need a defensive superstar in Mosley, and he's got the ability to stay on the field, Adams.
Quickly, do you remember before he even took his first snap, you and I were at we were invited kindly by the Jets to help kick off their season for their season ticket holders, their biggest fans, and C.J. Mosley could not. He might as well have been Joe Namath out there. Everyone was so excited, so I'm totally with you. We need to see him show up.
Superstar.
Or somebody show up.
Be a superstar. The Jets fans want one so badly, Nate.
For one half, he was the greatest return on investment of any athlete
ever
in contract history.
You got one good half. We need a little more.
Oh gosh, he's worth all of that money and more. So shout out to C.J. Mosley. That was great, Kyle. For me, I'm looking at Zach Wilson, the young quarterback. I want this offense to be built around his skill set. And before you say, okay, Nate, what do you mean? He's young and he's talented, he's strong. Okay, all of that is true. And forget about the young pass catchers and the talent that they have, and even going out and getting Michael Carter, who I think is going to be a really strong rookie running back this season. It's more about utilizing what he does well. This dude's unofficial 40 time is 4.44. Like, that is absolutely blazing for a quarterback. So what does that mean? It's not just make him a drop back traditional quarterback, deliver the ball downfield. It's also getting him outside the pocket and do it early. Let's start a little bit of in training camp and then in preseason, and then game 1, make sure you show every defense just the full range of what Zach Wilson can be. You know what I didn't like about Sam Darnold's time here is towards the end, when the writing was kind of on the wall, you would hear, well, if they just allowed him to get outside the pocket a little bit more. We've seen glimpses. We have to use his athletic ability. Why did it take so long for them to figure that out? Don't do that with a young quarterback as talented as Zach Wilson. So with the guys that you brought in, the playmakers, the wide receivers, and also leaning on the run game, make sure you scare defenses with his athleticism, because running an unofficial 4.44 at the quarterback position and being able to throw the ball, that right there is an advantage in itself.
This is going to be a really young team. Not just in age. They signed some veterans. They bring in Corey Davis. They bring in Sheldon Rankins, Carl Lawson, but young in terms of just experience. It starts with quarterback. It starts with Zach Wilson, a guy who's really a one-year producer in college. You see all the skill sets. He played in a similar type of offense to what Mike LaFleur is going to be running with the Jets here. But just to put all those pieces together, the young quarterback, everything happens around him. You got really good guys in the offensive line, Mekhi Becton, Elijah Vera Tucker, but to bring it all together, you're young in the scheme on defense. The biggest thing is just buy into the philosophy and the program with Robert Saleh, because it is going to be a roller coaster ride for this team. It is going to take them time. I believe the question for the segment was, what does it take for them to compete? They're going to compete. They're going to play hard for Robert Saleh. If it's compete to win the AFC East, let's take it easy on the expectations.
I love you.
In the short term for the Jets here. You want to build this thing the right way. Think back to Todd Bowles. Go back and think about Todd Bowles in his first year. They go out, they win 10 games with an older roster, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon Marshall. Anybody would look at that roster and say, we got to blow it up, we got to start over. No, they won some games, so let's bring them all back. No, you want to build the program the right way from the ground up. That's what they're going to do. Let's just ease back on the competing now.
Who do you think you are injecting some realism into this breakfast table that wants to hype up every team in the National Football League? I do like the fact that you brought that up. I think we should, as a table, just define what compete means. It is a loaded division. I think they're young. I think there might be a year away still. I think buying into a culture change might be great. Kyle, I can tell you disagree with me already. But it's the Bills, who you love.
Bills are great.
It is all on Tua. Can Tua be the guy? And they're loaded, and hopefully they can be. And the Patriots, who I think will be back and bounce back. So I ask you, I mean, the only way I see this team, if we're talking compete like playoff style, that's if Tua doesn't have it and struggles, and it all resurfaces. If Cam's best days are behind him, if the Patriots offense cannot get going. Your thoughts?
I think the way they compete is that Saleh is a superstar. Like, I think that Robert Saleh comes in and changes everything. And they play with their hair on fire, and then Wilson is for real. And I do think they need the other teams to falter. Like, I don't think, you said, I don't think Cam and Tua are exactly locks to wrap this thing up. I think Buffalo's for real. But it's not called control, alt, try hard. Like, it's compete. Like, if we're sitting here, I'm going to say, and I'll say it again, the goal for the New York Jets this year should be to make the playoffs. Yeah. And if that's via a wild card, it's never been easier in history to make the playoffs. I can't say, 5-12, that's pretty good.
You think they will make the playoffs on the back of their first-time head coach?
That's different. I don't know if they will, but if I'm Saleh, I'm saying yes, we could do it. And yes, look, they did it with Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
It was a different team, I get it. But, like, you can come into New York City and lay the smackdown. You can.
There is a fine line, though, that he has to walk as a defensive-minded coach who is very intense and brings that energy. It's a delicate dance when you're bringing that same type of energy every day to a young team. Because I remember being on the Detroit Lions and having Jim Schwartz, who was a defensive-minded coach, very intense.
Sure.
Now, majority of the team, we took his coaching. We bought in. We were drinking whatever he was selling us. But then there are other players that took that competition and that energy and that intensity and maybe went a little bit too far sometimes. I remember young Ndamukong Suh, because he was always told, we got to be an animal out there.
Yeah,
like, sometimes his aggressiveness worked against him and worked against the team.
He ripped Jake Delhomme's head off, man.
I just feel like you're going to have to, yes, it's a delicate dance, which means there has to be intensity and competition, and you have to kind of hope your players reflect what you are, but you can't allow them to go over the edge.
I don't know. I think you guys have worked.
And we did as players. It wasn't just Ndamukong Suh. I did as well. I had a few flags because Jim Schwartz was teaching one thing, and we went out there and took it over the top sometimes.
Robert Saleh is more in control than Jim Schwartz, right? Jim Schwartz was always right on that
Saleh on the
sideline.
Has
Saleh ever chased down the coach from the other team and tried to fight him after the game? Pretty sure no.
Hey, we had to do what we had to do, Tom. All right, it's Detroit. We have to fight for our respect.
I sense a little heavy lifting. You working up a sweat over there, Tom?